Let's talk O line. I know you're. This is one of your favorite areas. The O line coach Chris Forster told us that Colton McKivitz and Spencer Burford should stop looking over their shoulder because,
Yeah.
Burford's the right guard and McKivitz is the right tackle, and it doesn't sound like there's going to be any real competition there if things break the way they want them to break. What do you think of McKivitz stepping in for McGlinchey? And then what do you think of the offensive line additions? I mean, I loved the John Feliciano signing. I just feel so much better about them in the interior, knowing they have Feliciano in house. And then I asked Forster yesterday about Joey Fisher, or the other day about Fisher. I said, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Because he was billed as maybe a right tackle. And man, I couldn't even get the question out. And he's like, he's not a tackle. He may be a center down the road, but we think he's a guard, and we really like his potential. He's big, he's physical, he's tough. Um, it just kind of makes me wonder if McKivitz weren't the tackle, who's the backup tackle? Who's the swing tackle? Is it Jalen Moore? Is it Matt Pryor? Are they still? Is it Leroy Watson? I'll say this: watching the workouts, the kid from Hawaii, Ilm Manning, doesn't look like a left tackle, even though he played there his whole career, but he sure looks like a promising prospect to me. He's got good, he's got weight, he's got ability where he could put on some weight, but he looks strong and he looks athletic. I love the way he moves. Zakel has gotten worlds better. Give me your thoughts on the O line.
With Colton McKivitz, like I have confidence in Colton McKivitz that he can be a starter. Is he going to be an all-world tackle? I don't think he'll be that. I've always thought of him more as a guard, but he's been able to find a home on the 49ers offensive line by being versatile, by being able to play tackle, kick out, play tackle, and play guard. Um, and so him stepping in to be the starting right tackle, I think Forster even said, like, admitted that they're going to lose a little bit in the run game, going from McGlinchey to Colton McKivitz, and that might be true. But you can also reference when they had the other right tackle who filled in for McGlinchey when he went down with the injury in 2021, Tom Compton. Tom Compton all of a sudden became one of the best run blocking right tackles in the NFL, at least from grading metrics. So I think Colton McKivitz will be able to plug in and play well. I also know that Kyle Shanahan really doesn't put these tackles on an island unless it's third and long and you got to drop back and you got to pass. Kyle Shanahan does a phenomenal job of understanding his personnel on the offensive line and playing to their strengths. You see it all the time with how they played with Brunskill and what they tend to do, what they do in regards to what play side that they run the ball at the most. So with Colton McKivitz, I have a level of confidence that he'll be able to step in and be serviceable. I'm not too concerned about that. It is going to be interesting to see how he holds up for the entire season. So we'll continue to see how that plays out. And I love what Forster said about Burford and giving him the vote of confidence that don't look over your shoulder. This is your job right now. Because I did have Jonathan Feliciano on my channel, and he said he's here to compete for a starting job. He said worst case scenario, I'm a backup. So Jonathan Feliciano, in his mind, is coming in here to compete. He didn't want to divulge which position he was competing for, but it has come out that he's lining up at right guard, which is kind of what we thought he was competing at. And I don't think there's any problem with competition too. I think people sometimes hear like, oh, like Feliciano's coming in to compete with Burford. Like the best case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers is Burford wins that job and he keeps Feliciano off his back because in my opinion, Feliciano is a starting caliber interior offensive lineman in this league. And if Spencer Burford is keeping him out of that lineup, that means Spencer Burford is the best man for that job. And that means Spencer Burford has continued to develop and grow. And with Spencer, his traits have never been his issue. His traits are top notch. It's just the finer details of the position of leverage and, things like hand placement, sliding protection to the right side, and picking up the right guy on stunts and things like that. Like that's just where that's going to happen with the rookie. So with Spencer Burford, as long as he continues to improve on that aspect of his game and he can beat out Jonathan Feliciano, that's the best case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, because Burford has an opportunity to be a 10-year starter in this league. Feliciano's, he's 29, 30. He's up there. He's got a lot of experience, but I would think it would speak very highly for Burford to maintain that role with Feliciano, who's a dog. Like he's a dog. Like he's been notorious for just being an aggressive offensive lineman. So if Burford can keep that dog in his cage, like that's a good sign for Spencer Burford's development, and then everyone across the line. I expect Banks to get better, Brendel to get better, because this is really their year two heading into as starters. So I expect improvement there. Trent is going to be Trent. And in regards to swing tackle, that's a question, because I've seen Leroy Watson kind of ahead of uh, ahead of Jalen Moore in some clips, but then I think it was also Jalen Moore who was starting left tackle at OTAs yesterday. So I'm not sure like what the 49ers are thinking in regards to Jalen Moore or Leroy Watson, but I do think Leroy Watson has taken a jump. I'm very intrigued to see what he looks like in training camp. And what that looks like. Joey Fisher being kicked down to guard is not a surprise. I think when you look at tackles in this league, you look at length, you look at long arms. It's just the way the position. Uh, Joey Fisher was absolutely insane. Like his highlights are ridiculous in
Right.
regards to how he bodies other players. But you do see a world where, yeah, he probably fits best at guard or center, because of just you need that length when you're going up against these long defensive ends. Not everyone's built like, Bosa, where Bosa's still a big dude, but he's a little bit more compact. I always use Brian Burns as my example for length, because his arms are insanely long and he's got all the speed in the world, and you got to be able to have that length to be able to make sure that you get your hands on these guys. If you don't, they blow right by you. So I don't have any problem with Fisher kicking down to guard, and I'm curious to see what the other undrafted free agent guys look like, what Pryor looks like, who that swing tackle is going to be. I think the O line is pretty much solidified, but I do like I think Feliciano is a great pickup, and it's going to be really interesting to see if Burford can keep him off his back, because I know Feliciano wants that job.
To me, it's interesting that Feliciano's slating in at right guard, because I think he might be their best center.
Mhm.
I think Feliciano might be an upgrade from Brendel. I know Brendel was a Pro Bowl alternate last year, but Feliciano, I think, is a bigger, stronger guy. As far as he's a heavier guy, I think he anchors better. I know his experience is more at guard, but I feel better knowing that they have Feliciano.
Mhm.
You played offensive line. Burford and Brunskill shared right guard last year. You don't see that a lot. What do you think of that practice? And would it benefit Burford to share right guard at times this year with Feliciano? Because if that's the way it shakes out, to me, that's a clear upgrade. And I like Brunskill. I thought he was one of the smartest offensive linemen I've ever met, but he's not as good a player as Feliciano. And if it was Burford and Feliciano both getting run at right guard, what do you think of that whole concept of sharing the position?
It was odd to me. Being an offensive line guy, I'd really never seen it. I'm always a big proponent of like giving your guys the opportunities to just go out and stack. And because offensive line, like all it takes is one or two bad plays for everyone to perceive you as being a bum or not being good at the position. Like you could have 30 other great plays, but you mess up two of them and you're considered one of the worst players ever. So like with Burford and Brunskill rotating, that was I'd never seen that before, and they did it all year, and they didn't stop. So it worked though, I guess, right? Like the 49ers still found success, but I really do think that was to kind of protect Burford's confidence, and I think Kyle's talked about it a couple times, like, Burford really impressed in OTAs, and they felt really confident plugging him in, and then they're like, as they kinda got into it, they maybe saw some of the flaws in his game, but they didn't wanna bench him, and they didn't want to, like, destroy his confidence or anything in that regard, so that you're still the starter, we're gonna start you, but we're gonna rotate you, and we're just gonna give you some rest and some breaks. If they do that with Feliciano, again, I would prefer Burford starts the whole year. If they do that, obviously they've shown they can do it and have success, but if they do rotate again, I feel like that it would be still a detriment to Burford and his process and his progress. I would wanna see Burford take ownership of that role. I wanna see him take ownership of that position, and because if he doesn't, then he's giving Feliciano that opportunity to take it, and where Brunskill is more of a finesse offensive lineman, Feliciano, like we talked about, he is a power offensive lineman. He's a dog. He has a lot of experience in this league. You talking to him and his mentality, he knows he's getting to that point. He wants to win a Super Bowl and he wants to start. He is not here to be a backup, and that is his mentality. So if Burford gives him that window to rotate, I think Feliciano's the kind of guy who's like, "Yo, you're gonna give me this window? I'm gonna take the window. I'm jumping through the window, and I'm gonna take the spot." So for me, I really do hope it's competition, and because I really do believe in competition, and I believe competition is gonna bring the best out of both of these guys, and I want Burford to win the job flat out. I want him to take it and play every snap and take that maturation process. Can they be successful with them rotating? Of course, they've shown they can do it, but that's not what I want for Burford. I want Burford to take this job and win it, and I want him to beat out Feliciano, and him beating out Feliciano would be a huge vote of confidence, in my opinion, for him as a player.